Hi there, William Drescher, Troubles Behind Me Canine Training, based here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We provide help for troubled dogs, puppies who need a great start, and of course their families. And a lot of times I'm working with dogs that are really big, that are leash aggressive or barking at people on the leash or aggressive in the house. And clients knock on my door, and when I do our online consults, they'll tell me, well, I've tried this leash and that harness and this easy leader and that nose thing. And I'm like, whoa, 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 stop. All those things hide the problem. They don't actually teach the dog to walk happily next to you or sit relaxed next to you, lowering the adrenaline. So I want to talk about a technique that we've used for years, which is kind of like wearing a pair of spurs on a horse. And people go, wait, how does that work? I say, well, let's start from the beginning and then we'll talk about it and show you my technique for teaching dogs not to pull on a leash. First off, we all start with the same thing. All my clients start with something called a loop leash. These puppies are in one. It's a rope leash. It's got one around my neck right now. It never gets too tight because it has a little tiny metal clip, which I like, which stops it from choking your dog. We never want to hurt a dog with a leash, choking their neck, all that kind of stuff. But when we use the Barbara Woodhouse way of getting a dog's attention with a little bit of a jerk, it makes a great sound. And then it immediately lets go and loosens around the dog's neck. So every dog can get this idea of walking on a rope leash. Now, let's say you've got a really big dog, like, I don't know. Here's our buddy Pops. Pops is my Tosa Inu. He's about 175 pounds, about 35 inches tall when he stands. First time Pops saw a rabbit, I went for a ride. Seriously, dragged me a long way. So teaching Pops to respect the rope leash required a little more strength, a little more power. But I don't want to go to more power. I want the dog to listen to the loop leash, just like it was my voice. Pops. Dog. What? In the beginning, it should be simply Pops. What? But in the beginning with Pops, it was a little bit tougher than that. So we're going to go back and tell you where the whole idea of using a prong collar, like a pair of spurs, comes from. When I was a kid, I rode show jumpers. Here we are, back in 1977, riding my mare Spring, final decision. Even here with Spring, I'm wearing a pair of spurs and I have a dressage whip in my right hand. But this was because she was really stubborn. Sometimes you'd squeeze the leg a little bit, and instead of moving forward the way she would, she'd sort of hesitate like, well, I heard you squeeze, but I'm not going to pay attention to it. So you take your toe, you turn it out a little bit, you just give her a little poke with it. She goes, oh, I'll listen to your leg. So she learned to respect my leg or be educated to the pressure of my leg from the spur, giving her a little tap to remind her that my leg is on her side. Now, let's talk about other examples of that. I'll make it full screen so you can see it screen. Here's a set of Prince of Wales spurs on a video that's been put together by a trainer who I really love, Bernie Trowrig. Bernie here just shows a whole bunch of different kinds of spurs that exist and how they work and how you adjust them. But the whole idea of the spurs is to teach the horse to listen to your leg. And sometimes different spurs, different lengths, but you notice they're all just short little nubbies. Now, if we go forward, here's Bernie riding a horse to a jump. And if that horse was nervous, we're going to show how he uses the spur. Notice it's not touching the horse. It's never touching the horse. But once in a while, he might turn his toe out and say, hey, move off my leg. Learn to listen to my leg with a little bit of spur, right? So next step, let's talk about a prong collar. This is exactly the way never to use your prong collar. It's tight on the dog's neck. It's wrapped on him really tight, way, way too tight. The harness here is pulling on it. And we don't want to have it be hurting the dog in any way, shape, or form. We want to surprise the dog with it to teach them to listen to the loop leash that we're going to show you in a moment, right? So this is a prong collar. If you haven't seen one before, I'm going to show you really quickly. I've got one just hanging on my arm. Looks like this. Has little hinges that all spring around. And the idea that when you use it is if I use the loop leash first and go, hey, Pops, didn't listen. Hey, Pops, still didn't listen. Okay, just one time. Hey, Pops. It doesn't really hurt at all, but it makes a great sound. And there's a surprise of, whoa, what was that? When he looks at me, I go, wow, this thing's really powerful, huh? It's got that setting you didn't even know. That's what we're trying to do. Educate the dog to listen to the loop leash by sometimes using a prong. Now, show you really quickly another example of that. Let me go full screen for you again. So if we go forward here, here's some prong collars. This particular dog, she was about 8 months old. She was a Cane Corso Pit Bull mix. Pretty tough little girl. She's wearing her prong collar there, but it's not even being pulled on her. She just wore it around her neck to remind her from the sound, that noise, if we gave her a little pull with the loop leash, the rope leash. Now, that was after we trained her for 3 weeks on the loop leash. Then we put the prong collar on her just once in the morning. And then we worked with it a little bit. I think we only pulled it like 3 or 4 times. She figured out pretty quickly, wow, listen to the loop leash and it's all good. I get rewarded. Good girl. I'm going to show you another dog we worked with who's a little bit less advanced than he was. This is King. King is a king. We think he's a Brasilia, a Fila Brasilia. Brasileiro? Filia. Anyway, it's a Brazilian Mastiff and a Pit Bull. He's big boy. When you pull on the rope leash, which she's got on her left hand here, he just didn't listen to it. He'd pull right back. So you could ask, you could tell, you could even demand with the rope leash, pull, but he just wanted to pull on it. So she's got the prong collar, in the other hand on this little leather lead that I've got wearing around my neck at the moment. And when he didn't listen, she'd reach forward and give a little jerk with the right hand, and he'd look up at her, and then she'd use the loop leash to manage him. Now, I want to show you this idea in practice so you can kind of see what it's about. So I'm going to go here, just play this little video. This particular dog would bite you, so she's in a what do you call it? She's in a muzzle for this little work. But basically, notice how she's pulling on the leash, and she's trying to drag the owner forward. He pulls her back, lets go, and she goes right back to it. And he says, okay, let's try it again. I'll bring her back and let go. Now she's going to keep pulling. The more he does that, the more she wins that pull forward. She's never going to learn to respect that, hey, if I give a little jerk on the rope leash, you should pay attention to it. So we've got to educate her to listen, to pay more attention, and not just ignore it. So he gives her 2 jerks with a prong. There's the first, and she looks at him, and we go, good girl, very good. Because teaching the dog to listen to the rope leash is really what we're after, teaching him that behavior. So if you're interested in working with us and learning more about how to use a prong collar like a pair of Spurs, we'd love to help you out. Give us a shout. You can always find me at troublesbehindme.com. Remember, Troubles Behind Me Canine Training is help for troubled dogs, puppies who need a great start, and their families. We'd love to help. Have a great day, and thanks a lot. Bye-bye.